Hi guys, today I'm going to do something that I promised to do for quite a while. We're gonna be doing some more looks with the Do You Want Some Milk palette from Made by Mitchell. If you want to see my first impression, I will link it up in the corner, but basically in that video I said that I like the palette, but I felt like I needed more time to play with this to really make up my mind. And my issue was mostly just that some of these shimmers are kind of weird. Like, I think it was this one and this one, they're very kind of waxy and kind of sticky and like chunky. So I don't know what the deal with those are, but I want to really test out like a lot of these other shades and try to look past the fact that there are two shades in the palette that I'm just not a fan of. So I just want to play with this, and I'm excited because, like I said in my first impression video, this color story really inspires me, and I know that some people look at this and they're like, I don't know what to do with that. So maybe I can help you, maybe I can guide you in a direction where you can kind of pair some of these colors together, maybe do something that you wouldn't have thought of doing, but I think that this color story is really fun. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start by priming. I'm going to use my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base because it is my most reliable eyeshadow primer in my collection. And we're just gonna do some looks, we're just gonna have some fun, and then I will give you my thoughts obviously at the end of the video and let you know if I feel like this palette is worth the money, because his palettes are quite expensive. I forget the exact price, but I think it's like $45, which is quite a lot for a palette, but you also do get a lot of eyeshadow. So I do feel like if you think about the fact that you get so much product in it, it's probably worth the money, but like, who goes through that much eyeshadow, right? I know I don't, but I also know that some people really do care about how much product they get in their eyeshadow palette. So in that sense, I do think that his palettes are worth the money because you do get a lot of product in there. So I think for this look, I sort of have like an idea in mind, and I'm not sure how exactly it's going to turn out, but I want to do something not like toned down, because I do want to really use this neon green, but I want to use this as a bit of a cut crease and put it on my lid and then top it with this shade, because this is a beautiful sort of sheer yellowy based shimmer, and it's just gonna like layer beautifully over that shade. So I think I want to use some of these more neutral shades in my crease, maybe deepen it up with this one, because I feel like this is gonna make for a really good contrast to the chartreuse shade. So I'm gonna start, I think, with these two shades here in my crease. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. So I'm gonna start with this shade. This is the shade called Caramel, and I'm not gonna do anything fancy here. I'm basically just going to use this as my transition shade. So I'm just gonna kind of sloppily put this into my crease here and make sure I get it nice and blended out. If you are new to his formula, if you haven't tried it before, I would say that his mattes are definitely on the buildable side. They're a little bit, I don't want to call them sheer because they build really nicely, but they do take a little bit of time to become like nice and intense. It's not that they're not pigmented, but it just makes them a little bit easier to work with, but you do need to have maybe a little bit extra time just to get them nice and built up, but they will make for like a lot of really quick and easy looks if you want something that's not like super intense. So they're very multi-purpose, and I think that his matte formula is really, really nice, and I always enjoy working with them. I haven't so far had any problems with any shade, so I'm curious to see how I'll feel about the rest of this palette, because there are definitely some colors in here that maybe would be pretty hard to make and like make good. So next I'm gonna smoke this underneath my eye as well. I totally forgot to do that. And I'm gonna switch to my Rephr 13 instead of my 14, which I do have a clean-ish one right here. And I'm gonna take the shade called Biscuits, and I'm gonna use that to just get a little bit more depth in my crease. Again, I'm not gonna do anything fancy. I'm just gonna use this as a bit of a deepening shade, and then I'm gonna try to layer the purple shade over the top. We'll see how that goes, if it's going to build nicely as a third shade. I wouldn't recommend using a dark purple as a third shade, but I'm honestly just curious and I just want to see if it is going to end up building, but I also won't be surprised if it doesn't, because trying to build a purple on top of two other shades is usually not a good idea, because purples just don't tend to be the best layering shades. But this is a really nice color. Like, I feel like this is a very like day appropriate crease, if you will. If you're someone who's into really nice and easy, simple neutral looks, these two colors do work very nicely together. But obviously I'm going to spice this up, because this isn't doing it for me. Like, I need more than this, but it's a good kind of base to start with the look that I'm trying to do here. I'm gonna take some of this under my eye as well, just to deepen up my lower lash line too. So I think these are playing very nicely together. And then, like I said, we're gonna try to use the shade Angus down here and see if I can get some depth in the outer corner. But I will not judge this color too harshly if it doesn't build, because like I said, that is a lot to ask for from a shade like this. So I'm just gonna try my best to just get a little bit of depth in the outer corner here and blend it into my crease a little bit as well. This is honestly working quite well and definitely better than what I was expecting, and I really like how that is looking. I think that looks really nice together with those neutrals. So I'm gonna take a little bit of that just on the very outer corner of my eye, just to make sure that I connect it in the end here. The shade is quite hard pressed into the pan, so I do have to sort of swirl my brush in there, but it does pick up quite nicely once I do that. But it's not the kind of shade that has a lot of kick up at all, and you do have to sort of build it up slowly, but it's definitely doing a very good job of not having any problems with it at all. And I think that for what I'm trying to do, it's definitely performing very, very nicely. And I think if you wanted this to look even darker and more intense, going in with the shade first instead of trying to layer it over 2 other shades would definitely make it a little bit more true to the color in the pan, because right now it's definitely getting a little bit toned down because I am pairing it together with these neutrals and I'm also layering it. But I think that that looks really, really nice. So I'm just gonna go back and forth with the colors that I've already used just to make sure that I get a nice blend and it's looking the way that I want it to. And then we're gonna do a bit of a half cut crease, which I have not done in, I don't even know, like a year. When is the last time I used a concealer to cut my crease? I really don't remember. I do wish I had my P. Louise base for this, because I do like it for cut creases, but I ran out because that is how I use the whole thing. I don't like it as an eyeshadow primer, but I love it for cut creases. I'm going to use my Fenty Beauty concealer because this is quite full coverage and is also quite light, so it's definitely going to make for a nice base for that shade that I plan on putting on top. I don't even know if I remember how to do this anymore, but wish me luck. We're gonna give it a shot. So I'm first going to just line my upper lash line here, and then I'm going to look up and sort of see where it transfers, and I'm gonna first cut my crease up to that spot, but then I'm going to make sure that I cut it a little bit higher, because you'll see now that you can't really see the cut when my eye is open, and since I do have hooded eyes, I want to make sure that you can see the neon that I put on my lid when my eye is open. So I'm just going to cut it a little bit higher here, just kind of following the shape of my eye, making sure that it's nice and round and sharp, but just a little bit higher than where my natural crease is. This is just going to take some practice. If you're not used to doing cut creases, just keep practicing. It will get easier. So I think these are fairly even. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tap over the edge here to make sure that my concealer sort of blends into that matte shade. And I'm just going to tap on my lid to make sure I don't have too much product. And then I'm first going to go back in with that purple shade that I used. And I'm just going to pack a little bit of that on the outer corner here and make sure that I get a good blend between the concealer and my eyeshadow. And I'm going to do this in a bit of a diagonal shape here. And I have never used this concealer as a cut crease because, like I said, I just don't really do cut creases very often. So I don't want to judge the other shadow that I put on top of it too harshly, since I don't know how this is going to react to the lime color. So we're just going to see what happens. But since I do plan on covering up the matte with the shimmer anyway, it doesn't really matter if it doesn't look perfect. So I'm going to switch to another clean brush. Man, I'm using a lot of brushes for this. Just going to take another flat brush here, and I'm going to go into the shade called Soured, which was this beautiful chartreuse. I've probably called that shade like 5 different things already, but it's fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to pack this all over my lid, and then I'm going to layer the shimmer over the top, and hopefully this is going to just turn into a kind of light chartreuse shimmer. That's sort of what I'm hoping here. This is a really cool color. It is taking quite some time to build up though, but like I said, since I am going to layer a shimmer over the top, I don't really care that this isn't perfect. But I do wish that it had just a little bit more punch to it. But it does build up, and it is looking quite nice and opaque on my lid here after a little bit of layering. So I think this looks quite nice. I will admit though, I'm not having as good of a time with this palette as I did with his first two palettes, and I don't really know why, because it's been quite some time since I used those because I just simply haven't had time. But I remember just having like the best time ever with his first palettes, and this one I'm kind of like, eh. So let's see what happens when I put the shade Milky over the top of this. I'm gonna again use a different brush here, and I am going to spray this because I do want this to be nice and shiny. So I'm just gonna use some Fix Plus on that. And then I'm just gonna put that basically over the top of where I just put down that lime green. And this really is like the perfect layering shade. I love this shade. I think it's brilliant. It's gonna layer so nicely over so many different things. And I think just having that lime underneath just makes it so much more kind of green. And I really like how this is looking. And I really like the texture of this eyeshadow. It's very nice and sparkly and smooth at the same time. And it just looks so nice on the lids. So I'm just gonna fade that gently out over that purple shade. And these are also blending very nicely. So I think that's basically going to be the look. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and finish off because there's not really anything else that I plan on doing with this. I'm gonna do some liner and mascara, and I'll come back and I will show you what the look is like. And here is the final look. So to finish off, I used some lime green in my waterline. This one is from the Beetlejuice collection from Melt. I know it's not available anymore, but it was the only one that I had in this color that I felt like would really match my lid. And I really like how this turned out. I think it turned out beautifully. For my lips, I am wearing a Charlotte Tilbury lipstick. This is Pillow Talk Medium. And then on top, I put the Glamlight Gloss in Whiskey because I just wanted like a more, I don't know, glossy lip. I felt like holiday vibes, you know? Like I feel like more glam that way. And I really like it. And for my highlighter, I just used the shade that I used on my lid. That's basically it. And I really like how this turned out. Like it's quite neutral, but it's like a fun neutral. Like this is my kind of neutral look. Like, yeah, I do have sort of a neutral crease, but like there's fun stuff going on and I really like this. So I think this turned out really good. Like I said, I'll give you more of my thoughts like at the end of the video, but I'm very happy with how the look turned out, but I'm not sure I'm going to be thrilled about how I feel about the palette at the end, but we'll see. Let's just move into look number 2. So I have somewhat of an idea what it is that I want to do today. So of course I'm going to just start by priming with the same primer that I used in the first look. And I also don't have a ton of time this morning. I have about 40 minutes until I have to be out the door. And I do have some things I need to do before leaving. So I'm gonna try to make this kind of quick, but I want to do what I've set my mind to do. So we're gonna try to be quick and efficient here. Just gonna make sure I blend this nicely. I'm gonna blend this like a little bit up into my brow here because I do want to put a color there. And I just want to make sure I have plenty of primer just on the outer portion of my lid and my outer corner because I do want to really wing out the shadow. I do want this to be mostly focused on like the top of my lid. I don't think I want to do anything underneath my eye. So I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna try again with the chartreuse here because I want to have a pop of green and then I want to mostly use the blues for this look. So I'm gonna take this on a fluffy brush and I'm just gonna tuck it like right in the upper portion here, sort of where my brow is, just for like a very subtle pop of green. I don't want this to be anything crazy. I just kind of wanted to be here a little bit. So it's definitely not the most pigmented shade, even putting it straight on top of a eyeshadow primer. Like I really thought that this shade would have a little bit just more to it, but it's not as impressive as it looks in the pan. Like I'm packing on a lot of color here and it's not really doing it for me. I mean, it's there, but it's very subtle. So that's all I want to do with that shade. Next, I'm going to take a flat brush. This is, I guess, a eyebrow brush, but it doesn't matter. And I'm going to go into this dark blue here, which is called Blue Bells. And I'm going to use this to create a bit of a wing shade on the outer corner of my eye here. I'm just going to stamp it on where it is that I want my wing to go. Obviously, I've hooded eyes, so I'm doing this with my eyes open. I don't want this to be like super big, but I definitely wanted to still show when my eye is open, that is. So I'm just going to connect it to my lid so that it looks like when I look straight ahead that I have a wing on my eyes here. And then I'm just going to fill in the outer portion of my wing here. I might have to switch to a different brush to do this. And I don't feel like this blue is really that opaque and pigmented. It's definitely on the sheer side, and I feel like these shades are way more sheer than what I remember from his other palettes, but maybe my memory is just bad because I remember them being like so much better than this. I don't know. I don't know if he's changed his formula or what, but I'm not having as good of a time with this palette as I did with his previous one. So I'm just filling in the outer portion of my wing here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the lighter blue, but first I'm gonna just do this on the other side as well. And I feel like I'm kind of doing this in a weird order, but it's fine as long as it comes together in the end, right? I'm gonna find a Rephr 13 if I have a clean one. Is this clean? No, this is my Hodo brush. Nope, this is my Rephr 13. It's just rubbed off so much that I can't even see it here. So I'm gonna take the shade called Ocean Highs, which is the light blue, and I'm gonna put that in the middle of my crease. I probably could have started with this, but I just wanted to make sure that everything stuck down nicely. And this is a pastel blue, so maybe I should have started with this, but I'm just gonna put that as my transition shade here. This is gonna be a pretty soft look, I guess. A little bit softer than what I was maybe envisioning, but that's okay. I'm just gonna kind of take that in my crease, blend it into the dark blue. I am gonna go back into the dark blue and make sure I intensify it, but I just wanna get these colors down. So this one definitely seems more pigmented than the inner portion of my lid shade here. I feel like this is definitely a really nice pastel color, whereas the other ones were just a little bit, I don't know, just a little bit muted and not as intense as I wanted them to be. So I'm just gonna go back and forth with these colors a little bit to make sure that the intensity is good. And then we're gonna do some of the shimmers on my lid here, but this is basically all I wanna do for like the foundation or for the mattes in this look, because I do want this to be quite quick but also kind of fun at the same time. And like I said, I'm gonna keep my lower lash line just clear, maybe just do some light blue in my waterline. I might do some small lashes today as well, depending on how I feel about this look once everything is kind of on. I'm just gonna go back into the dark blue, make sure that this is as opaque as I'm able to get it, and just blend it ever so slightly into that light blue here now. And I'm doing this in a bit of a diagonal so that I can layer some of these shimmers over the top. I might just use the very light blue shimmer. I think that's gonna layer quite nicely here. But yeah, I'm not loving this blue. I feel like it's looking patchy on my lid, and I'm having a hard time just building it up to be nice and opaque. I'm not sure what the deal with this color is, but I did see some comments in my first video saying that one of you had this palette and you didn't have the best time with the blues, and I can definitely see that being the case. Like, I wouldn't want to try to build this blue on top of the other blue because I feel like that would have ended up in a disaster. So I'm glad I didn't really layer these very much, but I'm just gonna work on this a little bit. But I think this is looking pretty good at least. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my glitter primer, which is right in front of me as per usual. Just gonna put the glitter primer all over my lid where I want my shimmer to go, which is basically all over. And then with the sticky side of my brush, I'm gonna go into the sort of light blue silvery shade here, which is called Kloss, I think this says. Yeah, Kloss. And I'm gonna basically just put this all over my lid here. This one is a little bit powdery, and I don't feel like it's maybe as metallic as the... Actually, I take that back. It's pretty shiny and metallic. It's just very smooth. Like, it doesn't have any sparkles or anything to it. It's just a very, very smooth, kind of thin metallic. And in a way, like, there's something about his shimmers that I actually quite enjoy, despite them being a little bit more on the subtle side, because they just look really nice on the lid, and they also wear very well. Like, I never have to worry about them creasing or anything like that. They really just last all day and just look great. Just gonna go back in with the dark blue again, just make sure that the shimmer is blended into the matte as well as I'm able to. But I think this is looking fairly nice. It's it's kind of what I envisioned when I started. So that's always good. At least the shadows are somewhat doing what it is that I want them to do, even though I wish they were just a little bit more, just had a little bit more oomph to them. But I think this is looking quite nice. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and finish off. I am going to just put a little bit of that inner corner shade, which was called Milky, just in my inner corner. I guess it's not technically an inner corner shade, but for me, a shade that light that can be used with anything is basically like the inner corner shade in the palette. So I'm just gonna pop that right here, and then I'm gonna finish off, and I will come back and I will show you what I did. Okay, and here is the final look. I know I said I was gonna put on some small lashes, and I feel like these are definitely not small. They look so small in the little box though. These are from Alter Ego. They're in the style Flare. I've used these before and I don't remember them being as big as they are. And I'm not sure how I feel about them, especially with this look. Like, this is one of the things that I suck at. It's like picking out the right style lashes for the look that I'm wearing. And I feel like, I don't know how I feel about it. Let me know how you feel about these lashes. I like the lashes in theory, but I'm not sure they go with this look. But anyway, this is what I'm wearing today. And to finish off, I did some blue in my waterline. It is Prance from Colourpop. On my lips, I have a lip liner from BK Beauty in the shade, what are you called? Sweet Pea. And then I have one of their lipsticks on top in the shade Kindness. I love these. I think they're so beautiful. And then my cheeks are the Pat McGrath face palette that I just cannot get enough of. This is a trio that I got during the sale. It's the dark one. And I'm basically using a mix of these as my blush and this as my highlighter. And I just think it looks really nice. So that's going to be look number 1. Let me know how you feel about it. Like I said, I'm not sure how I feel about the lashes with this look, but I like the look, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the shadows too. I just wasn't really that happy about how this palette performed. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that the third look is going to end up a little bit better, but I guess we'll just see what happens, huh? Okay, so here's the deal. I sat down to film this morning and I was like, you know what? I don't really want to film more looks with this palette. So I've decided that this is just going to be a 2-look video because, like I said, I was looking around in my room and I was like, you know what? I have so many other things that I would rather film with that makes me so much more happy than what this palette has made me. And I want to have fun with my makeup, and I feel like I've already made up my mind about this palette, and I don't like this palette as much as I like the other 2 palettes. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't know, I feel like the mattes aren't as good. They're a little bit sheerer than what I remember the other palettes being. I wish I had time to really go back and like test out the other 2 palettes properly again now that it's been a year, because I just haven't had time to use them as much as I did when I reviewed them last year. But I just don't feel like the quality of this palette is as good. I don't know what it is. I wasn't having a great time with the blues, and I don't know. The shimmers just aren't really blowing me away, and there's just nothing really that makes me want to reach for this palette again. So I think that's just going to be my review, because I have other things that make me way more excited to play with, and I would rather make content with something that makes me happy than to force myself to film with something that I just don't really want to film with. So that's going to be my thoughts and my review, I suppose. I hope it's okay that I only ended up doing 2 looks, but I gotta do what I feel like is right, and that's just kind of where I'm at today. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.